So, good morning again, everybody. Welcome back. We had a great day yesterday, and I think this morning is going to be equally as great, if not better. We have a fantastic lineup. To start everything off today, we have one of our gubernatorial candidates, Jack Ciattarelli. To introduce Jack is Doug Heinrich from WGL. So, Doug.
Good morning. A lifelong Jersey guy, Jack was born in Somerville and raised in the borough of Raritan, where his grandparents immigrated 100 years ago. He earned his degree in accounting from Seton Hall, where he also received his MBA in finance. Jack is also a certified public accountant. A successful entrepreneur and small business owner twice over, Jack founded 2 successful Main Street businesses right here in New Jersey. But all the titles he's earned, he's most proud of to be called Dad. He's the father of 4 children, now all adults, each already accomplished in their fields. Jack has always believed in giving back to the community that has given him so much in the public arena. He has served at every level of government, including the Raritan Borough Council from 1990 to 1995, serving as its council president from 1991 until 1995. He also served on the Somerset County Freeholder Board from 2007 to 2011, and then moved into the State Assembly, where he represented the 16th Legislative District from 2011 to 2018. In each of his elected positions, he voluntarily term limited himself. In 2021, Jack ran for governor and has been nonstop since, in his commitment to New Jersey families, businesses, and our economy. He has continued to speak out on the challenges facing New Jerseyans, crisscrossing the state, promoting common sense solutions to kitchen table problems. Please welcome to the stage, Jack Ciattarelli.
Good morning, everybody. That was a very generous introduction. It left me wanting with only one thing. I do want you to know, as a 12-year-old Cub Scout, I did win my Pinewood Derby. I don't know how they missed that. So I think it's an important part of my social, intellectual development as a child. My primary motivation in running for governor, my primary objective in serving as your governor, will be to make New Jersey a better place to do business. I really feel as though the current administration is trying to tax its way out of the fiscal challenges we have in Trenton. You can't tax your way out. I will very responsibly and surgically reduce the size of a bloated and inefficient state government to afford a tax cut for businesses and individuals, but make no mistake, you can't cut your way out. We have to grow our economy. And so my commitment to you is to be a very, very pro-business governor who works in partnerships with this great association to advocate for the business community. We need a governor who's going to be the cheerleader in chief for our business community. My administration will be pro-business, and our policies will be pro-business. And in so doing, we'll make New Jersey a better place to do business so we can grow our economy to create more jobs. When I owned my company, we didn't raise our revenue by raising prices on existing customers. We went out and got more customers. So we've got to grow the base. And we do that again with a whole new administration and a new approach to make New Jersey more business friendly. What I say to every space, whenever I sit down with any space, any sector, any industry, is let's have a gripe session for only 2 or 3 minutes, but then let's spend the next hour focusing on what we can do to make New Jersey better for your particular sector, your particular space. So when we sit down together after we win, because this is over in less than 7 days, and I do believe I'm going to win, otherwise I shouldn't be running for governor. But when we sit down together, please come prepared with the 2 or 3 or 4 reforms that would change things dramatically for your sector, your space, that don't screw the consumer, resident, and don't do irreparable long-term harm to the environment. Come to me with those reforms, and you'll find a champion in me. I'll call in the Senate President, I'll call in the Assembly Speaker, and I'll say, listen, I'm on board with these reforms. Who can you get from your respective caucuses to sign on and get this bill on fast track? And then the other question you can anticipate is, what are other states doing specific to your sector better than we are? We don't have to be first, but damn it, I don't want to be last. Too often we are last. So, what are some of the things that we're going to do on day one of my administration? Make a loud and clear statement. We're going to reestablish here in the state of New Jersey something that's been gone for close to 20 years, a Department of Commerce. To the best of my knowledge, we're the only state government in the country that doesn't have a Department of Commerce. I don't need 100 or 200 people. I probably don't need more than 1 or 2 dozen people, partitioned along the lines of North, Central, South, and Jersey Shore, because each region has its own distinct economy, its own challenges, its own attributes, but also partitioned along the lines of small, medium, and large-sized businesses. And if it's a large economic development project that's coming into existence that has to touch 3 or 4 different agencies through the permitting process, somebody in that Department of Commerce will be the point person to navigate and shepherd the permitting process to make sure that it's streamlined. But make no mistake, I want to mimic what Josh Shapiro has done, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. He has streamlined the permitting process, virtually bypassing the local land use boards when a project is of a certain dollar amount and or creates a certain number of jobs. My Department of Commerce will also be the one responsible for getting rid of red tape. In the Christie administration, we had the Red Tape Commission. I think it's the Department of Commerce should be the one working in partnership with the business community to identify all the unnecessary regulations. And I'm not talking about getting rid of regulations that have been on the books for 30 years and haven't been enforced. I'm talking about currently enforced regulations that make no sense, that really hold us back when it comes to doing better business in this state. Let me give you a few broad strokes with regard to policy changes that I'm going to try like hell to champion. Number one, okay? We need to lower our business tax. It currently is at 11.5%, the highest in the nation. Over a 6-year period, I will lower that about 1% a year, just as Pennsylvania is doing, to get it down to 5%. That'll make us much more regionally competitive. I believe that's something we need to do. You already know what it is I'm going to do specific to regulations. We're going to lessen regulations all around the state. My Department of Education, my Department of Labor will have a much more dynamic relationship. Why? Because businesses don't just look at business taxes and regulations anymore. They look at labor as well. And so we need to make sure that labor is telling education where the labor shortages are in this state. And then education needs to do the very best it can in working with our educational systems, K through 12, and institutions of higher learning, and our technical institutes to point students in the direction where they know the day they graduate they can have a job. But that's also in the best interest of industry as well, so we can fill those labor shortages. We also need to put policies in place that make sure that young people feel confident this is where they find their greener pastures. This is where they can achieve their American dream. So I'm proposing that the first 2 years out of high school, the first 2 out of college will be income tax free, so people feel they can get a good start here. I also want to mimic something, and I know a number of you have heard me talk about it before, a program that Missouri put in place. Missouri was going through a bit of a brain drain. So if you came to Missouri from out of state, went to one of its in-state colleges, public universities or colleges, of course you paid out-of-state tuition. But if after graduating you had 3 years of W-2 earnings from a Missouri employer, Missouri refunded you the difference between the in-state and out-of-state tuition that you paid. What a neat little compelling idea, fiscally responsible, to try to get more people take root. I like that program very much here in New Jersey. But I also want to get back to vocational training. Not all kids want or need to go to college, and we should be doing everything we can to put them on a vocational track all through their high school years, so upon graduation from high school, their readiness for a career in the trades. So, what do we need to solve? Taxes for business, regulations for business, the labor pool, and then the last thing that we need to address is energy. Energy. And I know it's one of the focal points of you all getting together for these couple of days. So on day one, what I will do is reestablish something we haven't had since the Tom Kean administration, Tom Kean Sr., a Department of Energy. I don't want energy policy coming out of BPU and DEP. Those are regulatory agencies. And I do believe there's somewhat of a conflict of interest that the agency that's responsible for regulating our utilities is the one putting forth our energy policy. Now, someone could say to me, well, if you have great confidence in the people you put in charge at DEP and BPU, why do you need a Department of Energy? First of all, I'd want people that are doing nothing other than thinking about energy policy in this state. And second of all, it's not my administration I'm worried about, it's the next one. So we'll make a loud and clear statement by reestablishing the Department of Energy. Again, I don't need 100 or 200 people. I don't need more really than a dozen people that work in close partnership with the executive branch on what our energy policy should be. And let me start to give you some idea of what that energy policy will look like. Number one, Executive Order number 3. And during the Q&A, if you want, you can ask me what 1 and 2 are. But Executive Order number 3 is we're pulling out of RGGI. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is a carbon tax policy that, in my opinion, has failed New Jersey. The air is no cleaner, electricity is higher than it's ever been, and ratepayer dollars are going to other states to improve their grid, not ours. By pulling out of RGGI, we could save ratepayers, homeowners, tenants, and businesses $300 to $500 million a year and keep the investment right here in New Jersey. So we're pulling out of RGGI. Like the Delaware governor, who's a Democrat, I want to get rid of the EV mandate. So we're not going to have an electrical vehicle mandate for 2035. I'm never telling you what car you have to buy. I'm not telling you how to heat your home. I'm not telling you what appliances you have to buy. The markets will dictate that. But what we really need is a rational transition to the future. Now, over the last 8 years, we've closed down 6 different electricity generation plants. I will look to reopen and repurpose those plants as best I can. We have kind of an unofficial moratorium on the existing plants that burn natural gas to produce electricity, many of which are not operating at full capacity. Let's get them up to full capacity. Let's put the shovel in the ground for 3 or 4 new natural gas-fired electricity generation plants. And let's put the shovel in the ground for a 4th nuclear reactor down in South Jersey, where the current 3 produce 40% of our electricity, 0 carbon emissions. I'd also like to accelerate solar on the rooftops of all the warehouses you see all across this state. Talk to solar developers about the challenges they go through with the local land use boards and the DEP to get these permits. Why? The warehouse is already there. This is prime real estate for a solar array. There's no NIMBY issue with this. Now, I know there's things that we need to work out with the utility companies to get these online, but hell, let's get this going. This is an all-the-above approach with an emphasis on natural gas, which I believe is a very rational transition to the future. Carbon capture, fusion energy, micro-modular nuclear, hydrogen cell technology, it'll be here eventually, but not anytime real soon. What are we going to do in the meantime? When the current administration took office, we were an electricity exporter. We produced more than we needed. Today, we're having to import electricity and paying through the nose by having to go through these exchanges. Now, just look to the West. The Democratic governor is there, right? And this started with the previous Democratic governor, now Josh Shapiro. They're burning 7 coal-burning plants. They're burning natural gas. Shapiro just cut the ribbon on a new nuclear reactor. They're getting economic development opportunities we're not. And the irony of ironies is our clean air goes out over the Atlantic and we're breathing Pennsylvania's air. My job is to grow this economy. And to do that, we need to be regionally competitive. I believe that we can do that with the energy plan, the broad strokes of which I just laid out, that are not being irresponsible about the environment. I think it's actually very responsible about the environment. And so we're not going to ignore the environment. I do believe that Mother Earth is sending us some very, very powerful signals. I really do. Okay, but that doesn't mean we can deploy an irrational energy plan. Imagine where we would be today if 7 years and 11 months ago, Phil Murphy put the shovel in the ground on a 4th nuclear reactor, repurposed those plants, instead of betting it all on wind. And I know there's some wind advocates in the audience today, and I respect where you're coming from, and I respect your advocacy. But you know, I've always been very transparent and honest about this. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer. I do not believe it's cost effective. I do not believe it's 100% reliable, and I believe it's never going to meet our energy needs. We need a rational transition to the future. So with that, this administration will focus greatly on how to lessen the tax burden for our business and our individuals, and I believe we can do that by reducing very responsibly the size and cost of our state government. How do we lessen regulations? We'll work in partnership to do that. 3, how do we make sure that we have a ready, willing, and able labor force? And 4, how do we have a rational energy plan to ramp up electricity production as soon as we possibly can so that we don't lose economic development opportunities to places like Pennsylvania? I want to talk about one other thing before we get to the Q&A, and that is something I think that's easy to overlook in any gubernatorial campaign. We could talk all day long about energy policy, education policy, public safety policy, housing policy. I mean, these are the issues as well as the affordability crisis all across New Jersey. But what's easy to overlook is that your state government today is nearly a $60 billion enterprise with 60,000 employees, 9.3 million citizen customers, and 1 million business customers, small, medium, and large, and we haven't even thrown in the nonprofits yet. And I believe what this state government desperately needs is a hands-on CEO governor. I realize I'm looked upon as a politician because, after all, this is politics. okay? But what gets me the most excited about being your governor is being a hands-on CEO that's going to be a turnaround specialist and getting this state government to work better. I believe it's dysfunctional. So if you were to ask, let me give you now what executive order number 2 is. And then I know you'll be terribly curious about executive order number 1, but I'll leave that to the Q&A. Executive order number 2 is we're bringing back to work our state workers. Too many are working from home post-pandemic. Have you tried getting somebody on the phone? Have you tried getting your issue resolved? Have you tried encountering somebody in a state agency where the answer is not no, that this is how we can help you get there? I believe what we have today is a police state and a collection agency instead of a partner in our state agencies. I and my cabinet will show up every single day to make sure that this state government functions well and be customer focused for our citizens and our businesses. You know what really bugs the hell out of me? You can walk into a DMV office in Florida today and walk out an hour later with your real ID. I heard that. Try to get your real ID out of a DMV office in New Jersey today. They're giving you an appointment in January. Now, any one of you that owns your own business, if you got a competitor across the street that's doing something a hell of a lot better than you are, what do? I don't want people to hate their state government. And one other thing, we know we all pay a premium. I'm trying to reduce that premium here in New Jersey by lessening the tax burden. But when you pay a premium, you expect a quality product. When you pay a premium, you get a shitty product, it's infuriating, okay? And when it comes to government, I mean, if it's a restaurant, you just don't go there again. But when it comes to government, if it's not delivering high quality service in a very customer focused way, people start to hate their government. I don't hate government. What I hate is waste, inefficiency, and corruption. That's what I hate. And so what you're going to get out of me and my administration is somebody who are on the job every single day. There have been times when I bought a stock in a company that's really had the hell beat out of it, and it gets a new CEO, and I like the CEO. I like the track record, I like the leadership style, I like their vision. That's when I buy that stock. So what I'm recommending is, if this was a publicly traded stock, Mike, now's the time to buy. Buy in the low. Listen, the other thing that's been said to me recently is, Jack, I can't think of a worse time to be governor. Really? I can't think of a better time to be governor. The number of crises that we're up against in this state, the affordability crisis, the energy crisis, the public education crisis, the public safety crisis, shortage of affordable housing, yet overdevelopment in our suburban communities, that too is a crisis. When you hit the crisis, when you hit the tipping point, what a phenomenal time to hit the reset button. That's exactly what this administration is going to do. And you don't need to worry about me getting distracted, because this is my last and final destination. I don't want to be congressman. I don't want to be U.S. senator. I don't want to be president. I don't want to write a book. I just want to right the ship. So what you get in Jack Ciattarelli is a hands-on CEO that's going to show up every single day. I'll give you 4 or 8 years, the best that I got, and when it's all over, I'm going to the beach in Surf City. That's where I'm going. So, Michelle, with that, happy to answer. Let's do some Q&A. I don't like a long monologue. I prefer a dialogue.
I'm going to match Schwal off.
I know, executive order number 1.
What's executive order number 1? We all want to know.
You're serious?
I'm serious.
Oh, very good. Executive order number 1 is no town in our state will be a sanctuary city, will not be a sanctuary state. I believe that only encourages illegal immigration, which is something we shouldn't do. We shouldn't restrict our local police in any way, shape, or form to keep the community safe by working in partnership with a federal agency. And by the way, if a police chief and a mayor want to do something with a federal agency to keep their community safe, I think it should be allowed to do so. So executive order number 1 is no sanctuary city, no sanctuary state status.
Thank you.
Audrey.
Good morning. Good morning. Respectfully, I'd like to ask a difficult question. You mentioned growing government in 2 different ways. You mentioned a new Department of Energy and a Department of Commerce. Naturally, I think a lot of people in the room would like to see a smaller government, not a larger government. How do you plan to offset the growth of government, because you also mentioned that it's a $60 billion enterprise in our state. So you're talking about a large enterprise and talking about growing it at the same time. How do you make that make sense?
So we're going to, as I said, very responsibly, very surgically reduce the size and cost of state government. I think it's bloated in a number of different ways. What I also said is with the Department of Commerce and Department of Energy, I really don't need more than 1 or 2 dozen people at most. But I think there's opportunities for downsizing all across the board throughout our state agencies. Let me be clear. I don't celebrate putting people on the unemployment line. But I do believe the reforms I have in mind to grow the economy, the private sector will absorb and create those jobs. I don't think that government should be the engine of job growth. The private sector should. But listen, when you take a look at the technologies that are being used in our state government, many of which are 20th century technologies. I've got databases in DEP that are on Excel. I've got desktops in Treasury that are on DOS. Don't tell me that modern day technology can't allow us to be much more efficient in a number of different ways that allows us to streamline. This gets back to the need for a hands-on CEO. If you own stock in a company, you'd want to believe that that is a very, very streamlined operation, a very, very cost-efficient operation to maximize shareholder value. That's the way I look at this. So I think there's a whole lot of room for the right kind of downsizing through attrition, what have you, and the implementation of new technology. And speaking of that, some of the other changes you'll see in the state government will not just be the establishment of those 2 departments. For the first time ever in the cabinet will be a chief technology information officer to work in partnership with the executive branch on how to bring 21st century technology into our state government to make it a much more customer-focused, user-friendly experience for not only citizens but also businesses. We'll have that. We'll also have in the cabinet a chief procurement officer. We need to improve our procurement processes. These are things that CPAs get excited about. Those are both one-person departments. Also in the cabinet for the first time, however, will be a chief business opportunity officer. I think one thing that Eric Adams has done phenomenally well as the mayor of New York City has put new procurement policies in place. He named it a chief business diversity officer. The responsibility of that position is to ensure that our women and minority business entities are getting their fair share of state contracts. We've had a pretty compelling disparity study put out by the African American Chamber of Commerce that only confirmed what we already knew, but it has a lot to do with the fact that our procurement policies suck. And any business owner that does business, woman or minority business entity that does business with both New York and New Jersey will tell you that New York's processes are 10 times better than ours. And what has shocked me is that the current administration could change this the moment the disparity study came out by executive order. And yet the current governor hasn't moved one bit. So those are things that you'll see in the cabinet you haven't seen before. In addition to another one-person department, which I will call the healthcare czar. I need somebody to work in partnership with me on how to fix the state healthcare plan, which you all know is on the verge of collapse, but also be a point person for our healthcare systems. We've got some very large healthcare systems in the state today, and we need to work in partnership to make sure there aren't things like healthcare deserts, like making sure that independent doctors and pharmacists can not just survive but thrive despite the emergence of the healthcare systems, but also fix health insurance in this state. You know, one of the things that we talk awful lot about the affordability crisis, and we always come down to taxes, energy, housing, but childcare and insurances across the board are 2 other things that are driving the affordability crisis here in New Jersey. I believe we need a healthcare czar in the cabinet to work very close partnership with the governor on how to fix healthcare here in the state of New Jersey.
I like what you're saying about New Jersey being open for business and appreciate that. Obviously, we have a relatively new environmental justice law and rule in the state, and it is at times seeming to be problematic. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the environmental justice regulations as they exist right now, and if you have any plans, understanding that it's important for industry and community to work together, but if you have any thoughts and plans regarding the environmental justice in general.
Yeah. Are you referring, like, for example, to the new sustainability measures that we're seeing along the Jersey Shore?
I'm referring to the environmental justice regulation that is crippling permitting right now in the state of New Jersey.
Well, we're not going to do that. So, I mean, I just think we need more balance with our policies and our regulations, and everything that we've done over the past 2 years has gone way too far in not being a rational approach and is curtailing business in unreasonable and unnecessary ways. So everything is on the table. But again, you're going to see a different kind of leadership at the head of places like the BPU and the DEP, and we're going to work in partnership with industry to allow you to grow while still being responsible stewards of the environment. I think that's the balance we need to strike. But I will tell you, as an example, the new sustainability measures along the shoreline make no sense whatsoever, in my opinion. So we've had 8 years of that. We're now going to get 4 to 8 years of this. I hope it's 8 because we have a lot of work to do, but we're going to change things right out of the gate wherever that we can. Here's the good news. Many of these policies have been put in place, were never codified by the legislature. I don't know if that one was or not. I can't recall. But those that were not, like Reggie, I can reverse on day one through executive order. So it's not that I don't have great respect for the legislature. It is an equal branch of government. I came from the legislature. And I think what's key here is, on that subject, listen, this is a competition. And I play to win. If Michelle Sakirka and I go play golf today and it's $5 a hole and I win, I want my money. And you know what I'm going to do with the money? We're going out to dinner and it's on me. I mean, that's the way you work it, right? So this is a competition. It's got 6 days left. When I talk about the need for better balance, the opposing parties controlled the legislature for 25 years. I'll be 64 in 2 months. I don't ever remember it being this challenging. I don't ever remember it being this bad. Look at your property tax bill. If you're a renter, look at your monthly rent. Look at your electricity bill. Look what's going on in public education. Look what's going on in public safety. Look what's going on in housing. It's been a failure across the board. But it's okay. We can all go home and smoke cannabis and everyone's going to feel great. That's the legacy of the last administration. We need balance. And balance to me includes a different leadership in the legislature. Because this is a competition, I have an obligation to provide coattails for everybody down ballot. If by chance I don't produce a Republican majority in the state assembly for the first time in 25 years, I have relationships with the people in the legislature, and I would challenge anybody in this room to find a sitting Democratic legislator that's got a bad word to say about Jack Ciattarelli. Am I a proud Republican? You bet. I have been since I was a small child when I fell in love with Abraham Lincoln. But I'm not a hyperpartisan. I'm not rigid in my ideology. I'm not an ideologue. I just want to get shit done. That's what CEOs do. Let's get stuff done. And the sense I get from the Democrats in the legislature, they want to get stuff done. Quite frankly, I'm very, very surprised my opponent didn't find a lieutenant governor that came from the legislature, because she lacks Trenton chops in every way, and you've seen it throughout this campaign. So.
Steve Gerard, New Jersey Building Material Dealers Association.
Where are you, Steve?
Right here.
Yeah, right here. I still can't see it. Okay. Oh, there you are. You're right in the spotlight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was the voice of God for a second.
I wish. But you have spoken to our group before. I'm not sure if you remember, but you have spoken to our
When you run for governor, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Jack, I'm wondering if you could address the situation of affordable housing, specifically the mandate that each municipality has as a quota to reach by a certain date.
So, there are two things that I lecture fellow Republicans on all the time, because I don't think as a whole we do a good job of talking about it, and one of which is abortion, and the other is affordable housing. I support more affordable housing. Young people, our seniors, veterans, disabled people, middle-class people, police, fire, teachers, we need more affordable housing. What we need is to be smarter about the manner in which that we do it. And we also have to change the economic model. So let me talk about the first part first. It makes no sense to put high-density housing in a place where I lived for 25 years. 52 square miles of former cow pasture known as Hillsborough Township. No mass transit, no infrastructure, not a lot of jobs per se, and stormwater management issues, sewer capacity issues, townships losing builder remedy suit after builder remedy suit, and 4- and 5-story buildings are going up, one lane in each direction called 206. Take your blood pressure medication before you get on it. I mean, this is not the way. We're going to take Garden right out of the Garden State. That makes no sense. For the last 3 years, I've lived in downtown Somerville. And we leveraged high-density housing to revitalize that downtown area. My goodness, if you saw Somerville 12 to 15 years ago, you would never believe what it is you see today. There's a Raritan Valley train line, there's a New Jersey Transit bus line, there's a hospital, there's a county government, there's a court system, there's a mile of Main Street with over 100 mom and pop shops that employ anywhere from 15 to 20 people each. And we created foot traffic for all those mom and pop shops so they can compete with the malls and e-commerce. That's where it belongs. That's a transit hub. And if you've noticed, right on down the Raritan Valley line, the other towns are starting to mimic Somerville. Bound Brook, Denullen. If you're in the real estate business, start buying real estate in Plainfield. It's next. You can see it coming. So we need to just be much more selective of the manner in which we do it, and I do believe we need to take a regional approach. But we also have to change the economic model of this. And so what I'm getting at is, let's go back to Hillsborough for a second. If the state came in and said to Hillsborough, you have to build 200 affordable housing units, the mayor there might say, okay, but here's what happens. The moment the state comes in and says to any town, you got to build 200 units, in come the developers who say, well, you know, in order to build 200 affordable housing units, I have to build 800 market rate units. And now we end up with 1,000 units. And we're taking Garden right out of the Garden State. And if you want the poster child for everything that's wrong with this approach, it was on the go up until about a week and a half ago when suddenly Phil Murphy and his administration reversed course. And that was in Cranberry, New Jersey, where they got their state mandate of units, and the township had no alternative but to use eminent domain to condemn a 175-year-old family farm to build the high-density housing. Now, we need to protect open space in this state. We need to protect our farms in this state. We need to keep Garden in the Garden State in this space. We're going to use eminent domain, which was designed to eliminate blight. We're going to use eminent domain to condemn a 175-year-old family farm to build high-density housing. I called the administration on the carpet for this, and I called on the federal government to get involved. And the really good news is a week and a half ago, the Murphy administration announced that they've come to terms with Cranberry. They're no longer going to condemn the 175-year-old family farm. I think that's really, really good news, okay? And the last part I'll say about this is we need to leverage the shortage, and some people estimate it at 200,000. I'm not disputing the number necessarily. Haven't seen the research where it comes from, but I'm not disputing it. We need to leverage the shortage of affordable housing units to get people to want to live in our urban centers again. Now, I don't want to go on too long about this, but this is what you get when you get an MBA CPA as your governor. 50% of your state budget supports only 7 towns. 7 towns that are not self-sustaining. What am I getting at? If you go back 12, 15 years ago, Somerville was dependent on your tax dollars to balance its municipal budget, emergency municipal aid, and pay for its school district, because it was plagued by blight in its business district. It didn't have a stable, rateable base across the board, okay? This is exactly what's going now. Today's Somerville no longer gets emergency municipal aid, no longer gets the same kind of state aid for its schools, and has a $5 million surplus. Your tax dollars no longer support Somerville. If anybody in this room, and I'm guessing the vast majority of you live in our suburban communities, if you send your kids to private school, you're paying for schools 3 times. Your property tax pays for your local school, your income tax is paying for Newark schools, and Atlantic City schools, and Trenton schools, and then your pocketbook is paying for your private school tuition. It's another reason why we have a property tax crisis. We have to use affordable housing as a means by which to get people to want to live in our major urban centers again. The healthiest sign of any community is somebody pushing a baby along in a carriage or walking their pet. And I challenge you to do that in some of the towns I just rattled off. In Atlantic City, I spoke recently before a business council, and the person who got up before me was responsible for economic development in Atlantic City, and he was lamenting the fact that there were 72 empty storefronts on Atlantic Avenue. Their main drag right off the boardwalk. 72 empty storefronts. 19 cannabis dispensaries, which is a whole nother damn conversation, but 72 empty storefronts. And when I got up, I said, does anybody know what the population of this city was 100 years ago? It was 55,000. Do you know what the population of Atlantic City is today? 35,000. What would 20,000 more people mean to the local economy? And the casino owners agree with me. We've got to get people to live in our major urban centers again. Trenton, arguably the worst conditioned state capital in the country. Marriott didn't even sell the property. They left and boarded it up. The only state capital in the country that doesn't have a functioning hotel. There is enormous economic development, urban revitalization opportunity in our major urban centers. And my administration will be very, very aggressive in hopefully working in partnership with the local leadership. But if they don't want to cooperate, I am the supreme legal jurisdiction. We're going after the blight, and we're going to make these cities livable again. And it's my hope in 10 years' time, like Somerville, they are off all the governmental aid. This is another way in which for us to address the affordability crisis across this state. Suburbs are magnificent, but they're not the engines of economic growth. Vibrant cities are the engines of economic growth, and our largest urban centers are not vibrant. What are we going to do about it? I refuse to come back in 10, 20, or 30 years and have the same conversation we've been having for the last 50 years about places like Newark, like Trenton, and like Atlantic City. God, I feel my blood pressure going down. This feels so good to get it all off my chest. Last one, Michelle says.
Over here, Jack.
There you are.
Stephanie Brana.
Hey, Stephanie.
So you brought up the word abortion. I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
So number one, my best job ever is as a mother. I happen to be personally pro-life. However, as a woman with a daughter, I don't ever want the government to be involved in my personal or any other woman's reproductive rights, whatever their choices are. So, I'm sorry, but this is an important question. I want to know what your stance is, not personally, but as a governor, how are you going to protect women?
Oh, it ends right there?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, Stephanie. Let me ask you this. Have you been following the campaign?
I'm voting for you.
Oh,
And I'm encouraging others to vote for you.
Well, I hope I don't blow it now, but
Well,
let me ask you this, because my answer may depend on it. Have you voted yet?
I'm still going to
No,
vote for you.
I'm just playing with you, Stephanie. I'm just
That's
playing
okay.
with you. No, the reason I asked the question is, I've been on the campaign trail since April of 24. And my position has never wavered on this. I've been very, very clear about it. I've always supported a woman's right to choose. I do think that if you're a woman who's missed 2 cycles, if you have 3 more months to get your abortion, that's reasonable. I don't think that we should be performing abortions as elective surgery after the 20-week mark. And so that does not mean you won't be able to get an abortion after the 20-week mark, because I think there's some really reasonable exceptions. Your life is at stake, something terribly wrong with the baby. There's a number of very reasonable exceptions, and nobody's going to die on the table, as my opponent likes to say. Everyone's going to have access to an abortion, no matter where it is they are in their pregnancy. But I do believe at the 20-week mark, you shouldn't be able to wake up in months 7, 8, or 9, just say, everything's perfectly fine here, but I just don't want to carry this pregnancy to term. I don't think that we should celebrate abortion. The current administration kind of does. The current administration wants to invite people from other states to New Jersey to have their abortion performed and possibly even paid for by taxpayers. I don't support that. In this state, you can't get your ears pierced under the age of 18 without the permission of your parents. I have a real problem with 15, 16, and 17-year-old women not having their parents notified, at the very least, if they're going to get an abortion. But that's always been my position on it all throughout the campaign and throughout my life. I have a very, very strong libertarian streak. I don't like government involved in deeply personal decisions. But with regard to abortion, I do think there's a point where you just can't wake up in month 8 or 9 and say, you know what, I don't think I want to carry this to term. So I don't know where that sits with you. And if I've lost your vote, I respect that. And I respect we may not agree on every aspect of this issue. But my position on this has been clear from the very start. And it's one of the big lies put out by the other side, in my opinion. And by the way, while we're at it, I'm not raising your sales tax to 10%. That's a lie. I'm not going to have 350,000 people going without Medicaid coverage. That's a lie. There's a whole bunch of lies out there. So the entire campaign has been based on a stack of lies. Her disdain for the president, she could fly a helicopter. I don't know what anything has to do with fixing the state of New Jersey.
I appreciate your answer as someone who's voting for you and as a woman in New Jersey. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. And by the way, I know that was the last question. The other thing that the other side has had some fun with, I do get to appoint 2 new Supreme Court state justices, one of which will be the Chief Justice. And I'm looking for people that agree with me primarily on only two issues, and abortion isn't one of them, because I support a woman's right to choose. The two issues are the manner in which we go about building affordable housing in this state. I don't think that's something that we should approach 564 towns at a time. I think we should take a more regional approach, and you heard my specifics on that. And the other one is school funding. The current school funding formula, in my opinion, is nefarious, arbitrary, and unconstitutional. It results in a cost per pupil in some districts that's $37,000 a student, and in other districts that's $16,000 a student. So we need a new school funding formula, and I think on day one, my counsel to the governor will go before the state Supreme Court to make two arguments on affordable housing, one, school funding, another. I think there's things the Supreme Court doesn't know that in my mind are very, very compelling. But I'm always about being transparent. Those justices need to know if we're not in agreement, and that's not a threat. But a governor gets appointments for a reason. We need a governor that agrees with me on these two issues. And when I shouldn't say me, us. Because I think the vast majority of people across the state feel that the manner in which we're doing affordable housing isn't perfect. And the manner in which we do school funding is terribly imperfect. So I can't thank this association enough for all that it does on behalf of its membership, on behalf of the business community at large. And I promise you, my first job as a candidate and as a governor is to listen. I try to be at least a foot deep so that each time we sit down, we can have an intelligent conversation, okay? But you know your business, whatever space or sector you come from. And so when we do sit down, if there's changes you want, let's not just have a gripe session. Come to me with the reforms very specific to your sector that don't screw the consumer, screw residents, or do irreparable harm to the environment, and you'll have a champion in Jack Ciattarelli. And together, working in partnership, we can grow our economy, which is the #1 objective of my administration. Great to be with you all today.